Welcome to another edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com Deep Dive presented by EnTrust IT Solutions. Joining us on this week's show is High Limit Racing Series owner and champion, Brad Sweet. Before we get to Brad, don't forget to check out EnTrust IT Solutions. EnTrust is a full-service technology company serving small and mid-sized businesses in New York, Pennsylvania, and surrounding areas. The staff at EnTrust IT Solutions takes a personalized approach to technology. See why customers are choosing EnTrust IT Solutions as their technology partner by scheduling a free consultation at www.entrust-msp.com or by calling 717-292-8868. Here's Brad. Brad, welcome to the Deep Dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, it's my pleasure. I know you're probably pretty busy. It's never an off season when you also own a series. So
I used to believe that the off season, or it used to be for me that when the last race, went, it was kind of like just, decompress mode and, go on vacation and basically just sit around and do nothing until Christmas, basically. And then you kind of get antsy and, start doing things. But yeah, you're not lying. The work for me, probably my, portion of what I do at High Limit is ramps up this time of year now, with scheduling and putting points fund and tow packages together and talking to teams and team owners and just trying to put our whole rules package and everything that we're doing. So it's literally daily with promoters and things. So, but we're really close on our schedule, really close to getting everything out to the teams, and that's exciting. Feels like a lot of forward momentum. So even though it's a lot of work, there's a lot of excitement and like I said, forward momentum from our season that we had this year with High Limit.
well, I'm going to get to High Limit in a minute. Obviously, it's no secret. This is, High Limit's one of the reasons I want to talk to you, probably because there's a lot of questions. But first off, there's been some recent shifts at KKR. Eric Brutzman, who you've been with for 7 years, 74 wins, 6 championships, a ton of success. Ty Wolfgang was going to leave, and then Eric decided to make the decision, kind of scale back a little bit, oversee things, be with Kasey, moves Ty over to being the crew chief with you. Your thoughts kind of on the last month before, you thought you were losing Ty, uh, and now he's going to be your crew chief. What were your thoughts through this whole process?
Um, yeah, I never get too, let my emotions get too up and down. Obviously, I always know how important people are, to success. So, I guess when we were losing Ty, I was happy for Ty, because he was taking the next step in his career. And I always tell those guys that, if they can take the next step, I'm always very supportive. That's what we're here. Me, Eric, and I are training. The next guy to step into that role, just like Ricky and Donnie trained Eric to step in that role. And I've worked with many crew chiefs, so obviously Eric and I have had a great run together. Seven years in this sport's a long time. I would say, the decision was more Eric's to take a step back, maybe, and be more of a team manager, and maybe not be on the road quite as much. I think he's got a house, and it's been a long, hard journey when you compete for a championship every year. There's a lot of pressure. So, I think it's not a bad thing to have Eric still in our corner. And then I think that's going to ease, the learning curve for Ty. He can lean on a lot of stuff that Eric's already got knowledge about, and then obviously my experiences are gonna, obviously help Ty as well. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have, Ty. He's young and ambitious and wants to be on the road and wants to be racing a lot. So that's good. And obviously, I'm happy for everything Eric and I accomplished. It's like I told Eric, when we were kind of going through some tough points this year. It's like, hey, we're brothers. No matter what, we accomplished so much together. Even when we have some bad times, it's we didn't really want to get down on each other. I think we're both just looking for something fresh at this point, and yeah, he's just someone I'll always have a ton of respect for, and just really proud of all our accomplishments that we had together. But with that being said, just excited to see what this year brings with Ty.
I always say about KKR, there's certain organizations, I've seen it in sports, at the professional level so many times. The good organizations win for a reason. They promote from within, they bring in people who fit their mold. KKR, probably in sprint car racing and TSR, they do it the best for a reason. And it's not because they spend the most money, it's because they do it in a smart way. I don't think this could have worked out any better for you guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and like to your point, it's a program. It's not like we bring a crew chief in and he orders all different cars and all different
Yep.
engines, and we're, changing our shocks and changing this and that. It's like, that's not what wins the races and wins the championships. It's, building a program, working with inside of that program. It mitigates the learning and how much, I guess the bad nights and the good nights. There's not as up and down, when you have a program like we have. And we've learned that through experience. I've been to every racetrack. I've been in every situation. Eric's been in all those situations with me. Now Ty's been learning, and obviously Rob Capetta gives us great engines. We have Maxim chassis. We have factory clean shocks. So none of that's up for debate. Those are things that we're not going to change. So now it's just going to the track and executing and using our knowledge and experiences to run as well as we can. So yeah, you're not wrong, but a program is really important, and having the right people is even more important.
6 championships, 5 with the World of Outlaws, win this year with High Limit. I was telling somebody I talked to, and like, I think for the first time in 2010, 2011, you won the King's Royal in there, in the Ollie's car. And when you look back on that, and you're to the point now, you're not old by any stretch, but sprint car racing, you're old in the sense of how long you've been around doing this and success, especially with guys like Kofoid and all those guys running around, Corey Day. But have you had a chance to reflect on this recent run of success with Eric? And just because you're not racing now, Texas was your last race for the year, I believe. Do you kind of look back and, Jesus, look how far I've come and look how far, my career's come?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't live a lot in the past. If you noticed, I'm always
No,
looking
no, you
forward.
don't.
I'm always looking forward, and my mind really has to be stimulated. I'm very, uh, forward thinking and have plans always way, way into the future. So, I remember the day that I sat at the banquet and told myself that I'm, never losing to Donnie Schatz again. And I think whether I would have lost or not, I know I took the next level in the version of myself. I just went to another level. With Eric, myself. You know, the just where I went working out, and just how much I put into accomplishing that first championship. And it was like, just I think realizing that you can manifest those types of things, and you can find the next version of yourself. You can level up. So I've always just kind of kept that progression of like, what's next, and it's probably not the greatest way to live in a way, because it makes life go by kind of quick, because I'm always hustling the next thing, taking over Silver Dollar, rebuilding Gold Cup. I don't think that I had it on my bingo card or manifesting that I would start another national series, but just too much opportunity, and was right there in front of me, and just it was a situation that I couldn't pass up. So yeah, I think on the racing side, every now and then I'll go down to my shop and I see all the trophies and the checks, and I kind of think, definitely like pretty proud of everything that Eric and I accomplished in the sport. Pretty proud of just, being a kid from, a little small town, and always having a dream and actually going out and accomplishing it is pretty cool. To win the Knoxville Nationals is kind of what kicked it off for me. And then that first championship and just everything, that kind of goes, in that 6 year blur. Basically, it's the thing is, when you're racing for points, it's just a lot more pressure than just going out and racing. So I would say this year was a little more relaxed for me. Even though the points stayed kind of tighter, I think for me, I'm just so comfortable in everything I've accomplished. I don't feel the pressure quite as much anymore. And yeah, just it was a little more enjoyable racing this season, but obviously wanted to run a little better at the big races, and that's always kind of something that you look back when you reflect on your season, and you always look at how you ran at the Kings Royal or the Knoxville Nationals, and we didn't really run as good at those big events as we wanted to. So yeah, it's just one year at a time, but certainly proud of everything, but obviously ready for another season and ready to hopefully run a little better some of those bigger races.
Well, 2025 isn't far away. It never is. So we're going to shift the high limit a little bit. And like I said, it's one of the reasons the main reason I wanted to have you on. I want season's over. I did a thing I think it might have been last week where I graded the series. I gave you a B overall, which I think is pretty good. I mean, national series first year, that's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. So I think a B was good. So, um,
Whatever you say, whatever you say.
um, well, it's not whatever I say, it's just an opinion. What would you give high limit this year? I mean, obviously, nothing's perfect, and especially isn't perfect the first year. It's a lot of learning, a lot of ebb and flow. When you look back at this high limit season, and have you had a chance even to do that because you go right into making schedules for next year? What are your thoughts on the season overall? What worked, what didn't?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my standpoint is obviously the fans are what grade, high limit based off of do they buy tickets, do they give us positive feedback, do they enjoy our shows? And we definitely see some positivity and some momentum there. Obviously, people like yourself that are industry insiders have, your opinion, which is probably even, a deeper dive into the series, and to get a B from guys like you, that's great. My, grade would probably be twofold. It'd probably be, our staff to me did a great job this year. I'd almost give them an A for,
Agreed.
just navigating the whole season and getting better and better. I mean, our announcers, just our whole show made progress through the year. It got
Yep.
better. We really put emphasis on, what the fan sees, our start time, our end time, and just if we can just keep improving on how we entertain our customers, I think, then our grade's just going to keep going up, with the customers. The competition level was amazing. The entertainment value was high. So, I don't know. I don't really want to give it an A, B, or C. I just think it went really good. But these series, I mean, you're going to have the ups and downs. You're going to have moments, and we certainly had a few moments this year where we didn't do the greatest job, and we had things that we're looking to change, and ideas that we had that maybe don't work. So, I mean, it's just I think as someone that's new, it's we're able to maybe get away with some of that making a mistake and improving. So as long as we're getting better, I think that's really what I want to see. And as long as we're, to me, efficiency is really big, and showing the fans, high entertainment value. I think those are things that we want to keep, showing and improving upon. So I don't know. I mean, I give my staff an A, and I give the drivers an A. The 16 teams stuck it out all season. No one said that was possible. So
I'm
I give,
surprised.
I give that an A. I give our West Coast swing, kind of the first time that we made a big change there. That was definitely probably the highlight of our season. So I give that an A. And then, overall, I think, I don't see too much negativity. I saw a lot of positivity with the fans. So hopefully they give us a good grade, and keep buying tickets this year, and keep supporting our shows. I think we have a really compelling schedule getting ready to come out with some really exciting new stuff on it, and really looking at doing some cool stuff next year. So just excited to showcase what we have for next year, and talking to the teams and kind of seeing where we're going to stack up compared to where we did last year. Obviously, losing a few teams, but talking to some new teams. So, yeah, I mean, who knows what the sweet spot is, but I think we're going to have a really nice program to show the fans next year.
I thought you knocked it out of the park with efficiency. And I think you know me, that's one of my big things because well, I'm in Central PA, and sometimes I
I
wonder.
was gonna say, since you go to Williams Grove every Friday night.
You know, they're not the worst one. Trust me. Here, no. At least they start on time. If I go to a
Yeah.
baseball game, it doesn't start at 7. It's 7:05. It starts at 7:05. So, but
Yeah.
that being said, what was it about efficiency that was such a talking point for you? Because I think the concept of high limit that where we've spoken, efficiency is one of the top two, three things you talk about all the time. Why was that such a huge deal this year?
Well, I think the culture is shifting and attention spans are going down. And so if we want to appeal to a younger audience, uh, then our show has to fit inside of that, new culture of, and 3 hours might even be too long, but it certainly has to keep moving and it has to keep moving fast. And the biggest growth potential for sprint car racing is how many people can stay engaged, night in and night out on the streaming side. If you can grow that audience, then you're gonna sell more tickets when you go into those markets. So I think efficiency is not only for the fan at the track and bringing their kids and keeping them engaged, but it's also the fan that's watching from afar at home. Who wants to see a support class go out there and take up 30 minutes? Who wants to watch a bunch of track prep? Who wants to watch, a bunch of downtime? And so, I think people want to be entertained and stay engaged into the show. And if they're not, there's a million other things to do. So I think when sprint car racing was in the newspaper era, it was fine to run from, 6 to 11 and be there for 4 or 5 hours and
Mm-hmm.
do things like that. But we've shifted from the way you get your news is not the newspaper anymore. It's everything's instant and instant, communication, instant, entertainment is all in your hand. And if you're not entertaining at a high level, then they're going to go do something else. There's concerts, there's rodeos, there's professional sporting events. So if we don't view, that those types of things as our competition and start looking at what's being successful in those other forms of entertainment, then we're just falling behind. And I view, dirt track racing could be, one of the next great, extreme entertainment sports out there. So, we're just working towards getting that show packaged to where the fans know what they're going to see and they know they can bring their kids out and can get over at a decent time. And we're trying to compete with everything else out in the world that's entertaining these people.
So obviously, some tracks worked, some tracks didn't. It's the nature of the beast. You're your first year series. You're going different places. Um, as you're racing the night of. You see the numbers at the end of the night, but you can't tell me you're not driving down the front stretch when it's packed going, okay, this was great. And then maybe some nights where it wasn't great, you're like, damn, I don't know if we can come back here. So, I mean, you're human. Okay. I know you put on the helmet and all that, but come on. Uh, how was that this year? I mean, did you learn a lot about maybe regions you can't go to where tracks work as opposed to what tracks did?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of just any new business. I think you learn, what works, what doesn't work. I think it's ultra important to be super open-minded and you got to be learning or you're not going to be successful in any business. So, certainly as a startup, we knew we had things on our schedule that we were unsure about, but things that we were pleasantly surprised upon and things that we obviously learned that didn't work. And I would say the majority worked, so that's a good thing. And there was, sometimes I think fans jump to some conclusions on, some of these bigger facilities not looking packed. And there's still 3 or 4 thousand fans, but when it seats 8 or 10 or 11,000 people, they can look a little empty. So I think that's just a little bit of the nature of the beast. When we're trying to do something big, we're going to have scrutiny and things like that. But none of that stuff really ever bothers me. It's I really get to see the numbers and understand like what actually is working and not working. So I'd say probably more work than what people realize. And then, the ones that don't work, we'll obviously, make some tweaks and some adjustments and try to add things that we and some regions that we want to go to that we think are important to showcase our brand. So you'll see some of those changes this year. And yeah, I don't think that anything was catastrophic. There was a few nights that were bad, no doubt, like as far as crowd wise. And we booked, on a Sunday in Texas, for instance.
Yeah.
That was a bad decision. The promoter wanted the event. We thought getting our drivers a payday was great, but it was the optics, right? And that promoter lost money. And we don't want those situations. But the promoter really wanted to have the event. So that was a lesson learned. It was one of those things where, like, the risk doesn't outweigh the reward of for one, optics, and for two, just racing in front of a small crowd is just not fun for anybody. There's no atmosphere, and just to get a payday. So yeah, those are lessons, and certainly we try not to make those mistakes, but I'm sure we will a few times this year, and we'll just keep improving our schedule each and every year until we kind of hone in on the best 60 to 65 days that we can put together every year.
Now I know your schedule's almost done, not being released yet. But is the schedule going to look, I don't want to say significantly different, because that's significantly can mean something different as opposed to you. But is the schedule different? Can we expect to look at this schedule and go, oh, this series is evolving. They're learning from what happened last year. And is it different?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. The whole beginning part of the season's quite a bit different, and we'll be able to show what that looks like soon. And then some dates have changed that kind of changed a little bit of our April and May, kind of how we structured that. But obviously, your Tuscarora 50, your White
Yep.
Kurt, your Gold Cup, your Skagit, your Joker's Jackpot, those events, Eldora, like your event, our event at Eagle, Texas Motor Speedway in the spring. I mean, Texas Motor Speedway to end our season. I would say 80% of our schedules, fairly similar tracks, layout, and then 20% is changed, and then there's a few tracks that we're going into a region that we struggled to get in last year. So excited to do that as well.
Now you're a guy, and it's amazing. You're good at blocking out noise. it's because we've talked about this, but do you think, I mean, obviously there was some criticism at the beginning of the year from fans, you're trying to take the World of Outlaws, all that whole thing. Do you think throughout the season, because I think the noise got less, do you think you won over some fans by just kind of head down? These are some of the things we're doing. And, look, I thought the dice roll was great. I thought the dash draw was better because you don't know where you start until the end of it. The question, I thought the fan engagement was good. Do you think you won over some fans a little bit? And is that something over time that you feel, is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I just have a vision of where we're trying to go. And I mean, obviously, I know, anytime you put yourself in that position, you're going to face opposition or people that don't, you know, necessarily see what you see or believe in what you believe in. And that's perfectly fine, honestly. You know, it's just motivation. Haters motivate me. And so winning is the best form of revenge, I guess. So we're just super focused on where we want to get to and where we want to take the sport, and we're not really too focused on some haters. But I think we did win fans over. I think we saw that with our just in our ticketing. I mean, we were gaining throughout the season. Had a slow start at times, with a new brand, but it seemed like our viewership and our tickets sold, especially on like our events, just new events, standalone events, that were kind of new, where we were unsure. We actually did, quite a bit better in some areas than we thought. So, I would say, yeah, we saw less and less hate. There's always a few out there that just live to hate us. and those are the best ones because they think they're discouraging us, and it's like all that is just motivation. So I love it. I love hearing some boos, and I love proving people wrong. So it's kind of been my whole life story. Being short and redheaded was never easy. So I've overcome a lot, and there's really nothing somebody can say to me that would actually affect me. So it's a great quality. I have very thick skin, and legit don't care what really anybody thinks. I definitely love listening to opinions, and definitely want to make sure that we're listening to our fan base and giving them what they're looking for entertainment value wise, but certainly block out the noise. And I definitely know where high limit racing's going. I know what we're capable of, and just hyper focused on that.
Yeah, I never thought you'd become a villain, but in some circles you have.
Hey, Hulk Hogan became a villain, right? I mean,
well, okay. That's look, people didn't like Tom Brady.
yeah, exactly,
So,
exactly.
um,
People hate winners.
they definitely don't like when, and well, I notice in racing, it's change. Change is kind of, ooh, that's bad. But just think, I mean, the Outlaws used to be the evil empire. They're still the evil empire, but now you're like the evil empire too. I think
Yeah. Well, it's just people are picking sides, which I don't think they need to.
I,
I think that sprint car racing is what everybody needs to view it as, and if both series are doing well, that's good for sprint car racing. And I think a lot of teams benefited from high limit coming on the scene this year, and I felt like the overall sprint car racing got a lot more attention this year, having two national tours and two streaming services. I'd say our fan base grew this year, not went down.
no, I would agree with that. The money list top 10, it's 4-4-2, two being independent, four Outlaws, four high limit regulars. So I would say it was a pretty good split. So moving forward now, your schedule without giving up, obviously, anything, which I know you can't. Track safety. Riverside was in the news. I did something on it this morning. Look, I know you're a fan of sprint car racing. I know you watch what goes on a lot of places. Were you guys as successful as you wanted to be with A, setting a standard for track safety and going there and not going there? I know which is difficult the first year because you're just trying to get established. You saw the Riverside thing this week without, you know, throwing them under the bus or whatever. There were multitude of factors. I don't think it was handled well on either side. But when you see something like that, just the overall situation, do you look at it and say, okay, we need to do a better job with high limit, setting that standard moving forward?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing I've learned is it's just a lot bigger undertaking than you anticipate, because when you do get hyper focused on the safety of every racetrack, you could point out something that you don't like at 80% of the tracks. And it's hard to like judge one over a different one. Obviously, Riverside has a catch fence issue, and but what about Williams Grove that has no catch fence? So then the debate goes, well, what's safer, what's not safer? And you go to just a multitude of tracks that have, something that you don't love, but the tracks, obviously being a track owner myself with Kyle and Colby, is like, do we want to make every improvement super fast? Yes. Do we need to hold tracks accountable? Yes. But do the tracks make the amount of money that these things can, is the sport big enough that we can come together and make every track, 100%, bulletproof in the next couple of years? I mean, probably not. It's going to be a slow moving process that we can try to make as, the best improvements that we possibly can. I think being open, with track owners and promoters about, things that we'd like to see is good. I think, tracks that are just, maybe wherever we draw that line, when they're over that line, I think not going, even if you can sell tickets and pack the places, is important to hold them accountable to make at least some improvements. So definitely, it's definitely probably, more challenging than anybody probably realizes on which tracks you pick and not pick, and you're going to end up debating safety at certain tracks more than you probably want to. So it's a high priority. Obviously, I'm in the car racing. I think that helps me really resonate with the other drivers and team owners that obviously I'm in the same situation. So I want to go to the safest tracks as well. It's just there's a lot in this sport that needs to be improved upon, and I just think it's going to take a long time to get to where we want to get to.
Yeah, I look at it as is what you're willing to accept. Okay.
Yeah.
To me, I will tell you just a little, and not a lot of people know this. In fact, very few. The Grove has looked into catch fencing after the National Open. Whether they do it or not, I don't know.
And I just to be clear, I'm not trying to sit here and bash the Grove,
Right.
but the reason why I brought the Grove up is like
It's
it's
a
a
hot topic.
historical track that I've raced. I've raced at probably 50 to 60 times, and never really thought much about it. And it's like, well, then Riverside gets called out, but I'm
Mhm.
not saying that. I'm saying Riverside's more dangerous for the fans that were standing on the outside of the fence. But as a racer, like going through the fence or going over the wall with no fence, I mean,
Mhm.
where are we gonna? How who's more? Who's choosing what's safer and not safer there? And I just think there's a lot of tracks that you could point out, across the country. And we don't want to like pick one or the other. So it's not a
Sure.
Williams Grove thing. It's an example of a historical track that's been around a long time that could be debated, on some of the safety side with catch fencing or not catch fencing, what's safer and, how aggressive the fence needs to be. And, is it better to hit a solid fence or wall, or is it better to go, you know, off the end like James McFadden did this year? It's just, I mean, some of that stuff's just, it's just it's a lot to debate. And like you said, there's a line I think that you do cross, and I'm sure Williams Grove's looking into catch fencing and probably seeing, how much that's going to cost as far as steel and labor and everything that goes into that and how big their racetrack is. It's definitely not a we're not going after these tracks because we want these tracks to stay open and we want to have these big events, but we certainly need to be discussing the spots that need improvement.
No, yeah. The only reason I brought up the Grove was because it's a bit of a hot topic. It look, three cars go airborne, and what are you going to do? I mean, that's nobody's fault. It's not yours, not mine. It's just a fact. Charters. I get more questions about charters from teams and fans probably than anything when it comes to high limit. So I just want to talk charters for a few minutes. I don't view well, first off, your charter system. Okay, the 5 teams that got charters this year. Is the rule they have to run next year to keep that charter?
Yes.
Okay. So we established that because I get that one all the time.
Yeah.
So compare if you could explain the charter system, what it means to have a charter, what does that do for a team?
Yes. I mean, there's still some details to be, gone through exactly what it means on our end, as we build this charter system out for these 10 teams. But you can look at like how F1 does their charter system with their 10 teams, and you can look at how NASCAR does their charter systems. It's essentially a transparency thing more than anything for high limit, is to be transparent with the revenue that's coming in and making sure that the teams feel like they're a part of the business, like we're partners. And the other biggest thing is to make sure they have something to sell, at the end of their tenure. Is if an owner is there for 10 years with us or 15 years and we work all together to build this thing up, we want them to have something to sell to the next team. So it's guaranteed revenue. It's a guaranteed split of revenue, and how that looks. Whether there's purse pools or bonus purse money and bonus point fund money, or it's a pot of money that's going to be distributed to the teams based upon their point finishes, in a 3-year running average. So their charters can change in value, but not significantly. Um, And so there's just some details that we're working on, and some of that will be private amongst the chartered teams. But it's mainly to try to drive up value for the team owners that kind of believe in our vision. And obviously, we don't want to isolate teams, so that's kind of what we're trying to figure out is how teams can either earn charters. You know, teams maybe could get relegated out of a charter spot. There's different ways to kind of create that, where you don't want to get into any antitrust situations or
I was
to
just
get
going to
teams.
ask you that.
You don't want teams to feel like they can't participate. And so that's really important as we build our charter system, is to make sure teams, even without charters, can still come and participate, still race for purse money, still have these big events where, regional teams are there racing with us. It's simply to try to be transparent with our team owners and try to build value together. Obviously, media rights is a new thing in sprint car racing. That wasn't around a few years ago, and I saw that with Dirt Vision and some of the team owners. Just there was a lot of contention between how much revenue is really getting shared amongst the teams, and so I think that's where we decided to be transparent would be a more sustainable business model for the team owners and for the series to kind of be working together instead of always going against each other. So I think there's still some things that'll to go on, but we've definitely been working with our team owners, and I think they've kind of, if you listen to a lot of them, have come out and said they expressed they like the vision and things that we're kind of telling them behind the scenes on how we're going to lay that charter system out. But it's definitely a long term thing. I think you got to be looking into the future and kind of believing that Kyle and I and Flo and believing in our vision and where we want to take sprint car racing. So obviously the charters will have some really good guaranteed value at the beginning, but the hope is over the next 5 or 10 years they grow into something of significant value for the team owners.
And it's in addition to regular point money, correct?
Yeah, I mean it depends on how we lay it out. There's a lot of different modeling that we're doing showing the teams. I mean, it can be more guaranteed money with less point fund. It can be more point fund with less guarantee, throughout the season. So the biggest thing is trying to get to a point where we're covering uh, most of the operations of the car throughout the season. If not all the operations. I mean, that would be, a true charter would be, where the team owners are becoming profitable, with owning these teams.
So we both have been in sprint car racing a long time. We know how teams think. We know how drivers think. It's very in front of me. Is one of your challenges to get people to, because okay, if I'm a new team and I don't think like a media guy, I'm going to say, okay, Brad, how much am I making next year if I have a charter? Is it hard, or do you think one of your challenges through this process and moving forward is going to be, hey, this is an investment, guys. You got to think 2, 3 years down the road instead of, hey, what am I going to get next year?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as the sport moves forward, I mean, there is going to be, revenues that weren't available. So I do think the charters are going to be worth more than what people maybe think as far as guaranteed money. But yeah, I mean, I think the team owners have to believe, that they got to give it some time. They got to buy in and believe in the vision, and we all have to work together to create something that hopefully grows. Not only on the ticketing side, so we can grow the purses, but on the viewership side, so we can grow the media rights. I mean, those are things that if you look at what NASCAR is getting for media rights, it's $7 billion. It's
Oh, yeah.
if you look at what F1 gets. So I mean, I get it that we're very small, but if we do a really good job showing our product and finding those avenues that maybe we can fill some voids for programming, who knows what our worth could be, in the next 5 or 10 years, and obviously, who knows what the charters could be worth, and you look at PBR and what they've been able to do with their teams concept, and their charters are worth $18 million a piece now. So there's things that we look at across, all these different platforms and what's working, but it really just comes down to the ownership group and my passion to try to figure out an avenue to take sprint car racing to the next level, to where we can sell more tickets, have bigger events, have more fans than we've ever had. So we're certainly searching for all those avenues, and so far, I mean, what we saw in the first year was very positive, and definitely gives me a lot of excitement of what we can keep growing and building into the future here.
You have a great relationship with Flow. I thought their product improved throughout the season, something you and I talked about, I think, real early on. I thought they did a good job. And it was your first year. Charters kick in 2026, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, does this keep, I mean, okay, you're through the first year. Does this keep you up at night a little bit that, hey, there's a timeline on this? I have to have things in place by, and look, time's the only constant. It keeps rolling. You're going to Australia, you're putting a schedule together. You're a busy guy. You don't have 300 employees. Does it keep you up at night just to be like, okay, we're, not on DEFCON 1 yet, but we need to get this laid out because hey, we're going into 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I think, data was really important to gather. I mean, we had to have
Mhm.
data to put together like legit numbers of what, we need to see our viewership. We needed to see what we average through a season. We need to see how many tickets we sell. We need to see what our purses, kind of what we could do as a series. And, so data was a big thing. I mean, now that we have the data of 1 year, we can start to kind of model some stuff out that we can show the teams, what the charter system will look like. It definitely doesn't keep me up at night. I mean, I think, it's if my goal was to be like, stealing or being shady or something, then maybe, but like really all I'm trying to do is do something that's better for the team owners. And I think they all understand that and believe that. Like we truly want this to be not just a passion project for team owners. Like we truly want this to be a successful endeavor and a successful business with enterprise value, to own a sprint car racing team or a dirt racing team into the future, where you're getting more sponsorship because the viewership's higher. You're getting, more purse money because we're selling more tickets. You're getting more media rights guaranteed money because our viewership's higher. So those are things that, we're 1 year in, and the goal is to be transparent with the team owners. So I just, to me, that's not going to keep me up at night. That's definitely going to, help me build a relationship that's going to help us be more sustainable, as a group moving forward.
So obviously you have, if a team is to get the charters, the teams that didn't get charters this year, is it a 2 year cumulative points to get the next five, or is it just the top five in points last year who next year who didn't get charters this year? How does that work?
It's cumulative. So
Okay.
it's how they did last year and then this year, which I do think there are some teams that, are going to maybe had to be in a really good charter position or even got a
Sure.
charter that are going to drop out. So we have to decide how we're going to handle that internally. But I think I think there's going to be some teams that were pretty far down the list that have an opportunity to come in and run again and get themselves a charter. Um, and like I said, we're gonna put a lot of this out, once we get it set in stone. So I don't really want to speak on too much, but we want to keep the door open for a team that's maybe on the outside. And then we also, still want teams to come run with us, whether, they're just racing for standard purse money and standard, tow packages and stuff like that. So like there's gonna be avenues for, traditional ways to race with a series, and there's gonna be your chartered teams, and there's gonna be clear definition on how it's gonna work. So there's still some answers, but we definitely have some sort of structure coming together, and we definitely have some modeling going together for our teams to look at.
I won't keep you too much longer. I know about 10 more minutes. I got a couple questions. Teams come and go in this sport. You mentioned it. I to me, I think you'll only really lose maybe one charter team, but they move around. It's just the way it is. As a driver and owner of the series, I mean, you're wearing two hats. How do you? I don't want to say, how do you maybe talk to other teams to get them to try and come over? What's your line there? Are you just a guy, if they come to you, give them information, or do you pursue them? I mean, how do you juggle that? Because you got to do what's best for your series.
Yeah,
That's
I,
it.
I def yeah, I definitely don't pursue teams, so to speak. I think that, we put out, our package, and any team that inquires can see it, whether it's a team that's been racing with the World of Outlaws, or it's a team that's, independent, that's maybe wanting to take the next step. I mean, I think, we just try to provide as much information. I think one thing that teams love about us is our freedom factor. Our scheduling allows them to have, some freedom, and that's really important for us and for myself and Kyle. And something that we wanted is like, hey, the drivers need to have, a little bit more, you know, chances for downtime, whether that's, just to keep your mental health and physical health. Like, sometimes you just need to go home and take a break, and then sometimes, you need to go race more. And so having that option to choose what's best for your race teams ultra important, I think, to our success. So we get a lot of teams that, obviously weigh their options, and there's two national series to choose from. One's, clearly a different path, and one's, high limit is kind of, taking a different approach on things. So it's definitely just the team's choices. And I think what you'll see is some teams that jump back and forth over the next few years trying to find what works best for them. And some teams will, enjoy the World of Outlaws, and how they lay out their process with maybe, you know, a lot more races on their schedule and more guaranteed money kind of up front. And then you have our way that's kind of leaves you freedom to go do some things. And then, there's a little more purse money that you can kind of go chase if you do it the high limit way. So yeah, there's just two different ways out there. I think what you saw this year is it allowed a lot more teams to jump to a national level. And I think it allowed some drivers that probably wouldn't have got the national attention that they got this year to kind of showcase some of their talent. So you saw some stars emerge that might have not got that chance. So yeah, I'm proud to be a part of, trying to drive the whole sport forward.
I think people, when they look at pick and choose and they look at outlaws, you still got to win. No matter what, you still got to win to make money. Doesn't matter what you race.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, there was something that we were looking at, a few years back was like, I think, it was something like 70% of the purse money was in, 20% of the races. And then the 80% of the races was the other, you know, whatever's left of the purse money. It still comes down to your bigger events, your bigger
Yeah.
races that make or break your season, and obviously the point funds and the toes money are important for these teams' success as well. But you do got to run good. If you're out there running bad, it's tough on you mentally. It's tough on you physically. The team gets down, the owner gets down, the money goes down. So it's a very up and down sport. So high limit. I think it was my first year not doing the 90 racing and more of just having a little freedom, and it's definitely a little bit more enjoyable. I went on a few trips with my wife and daughter. I had just a little bit more downtime through the season when we needed it, and just allowed me to have a little bit more of a life outside of just driving a sprint car.
So with that being said, the charter system, is there a certain number that works? I mean, because I know the Outlaws, I heard a number of years ago, they don't want 20 guys on the road. That's not really a feasible model to maintain. It's not like NASCAR where high limit wants 32 guys out there. Um, is there a number that you look at? I know you were surprised you got 16 or to 18 guys this year.
Yeah.
Is there a number
Yeah,
that works?
yeah. I mean, I think it's all just revenue based. There's
Okay.
and purses. I mean, you look at the purses and the fall off on purses, and you have to look at, like, if a guy's just not really running in the top 10 every night, he's not high up in the points. they're not running great. Like the money coming in for those teams is just so much lower than the teams that are running in the top 10, the point fund that they get, just everything. So if the revenue goes up significantly over the next 5 years, then I think then you can
Okay.
support more teams. But I think you have to look at how much the cost of each team, they're spending, and then think of what we want a charter to be worth, and then start to think backwards a little bit on how many teams can we really support. So we don't want to discourage teams from not running with our series, but I think we got to figure out that balance, and to me, I've been with the Outlaws I did Outlaws for 10 years, and then kind of the High Limit now for a year, and then looked at it from an owner perspective of the series. And it just seems once you get down past that 10th, 12th range, there's just not a lot of meat left on the bone right now, the way we have it structured. So, if we start selling, some TV packages that are worth, somewhere significant more money, then yeah, maybe we can support more teams and kind of build, a structure where we could support 20 teams, or more standing on our own. But right now, you're looking at trying to get the best teams to come together to create the best product to sell to the fans. And right now, you look out there, there's probably 15 or 20 really good teams out there, and they're kind of spread out. But we'll see how it plays out in the next few years. And I'd say right now, to answer your question, 16 I think was probably too many, just because the bottom teams, night in and night out, just weren't getting sufficient enough money coming in to support the travel and everything they were doing out on the road.
So, first year as a national series, you can't rock the boat. You can't change rules. Can't have different rules. Can't have different safety deals. I know you and I talked about that a little bit. Um, Now that you're going into your second year, pretty strong first year, do you start to cut your own footprint a little bit? Do you start to say, okay, this is something we can do as a series, even though maybe it's not uniform with what everybody else does? I know you don't want to go too far off the reservation, but still, I know one of the things we talked about were some safety issues. You and I talked at Lernerville. Um,
Yeah.
where do you come out on that? And do you get a little, I don't want to say pushy, but do you get a little more, hey, we need to do this or we can do this because we're established?
Yeah, I think it's a balancing act of being careful to, we're so reliant on going to regions and having those regions run, those cars be able to run with us. So we don't want to like get to a point where we have like a different set of rules that people have to go buy a bunch of stuff to run with us differently. So I think there's that balance. But I certainly think the people that are, have been pulling the strings for a long time aren't having the right conversations on, do we really have the best product to show to the fans? Like, are we really creating the best racing when we're making these rules? Because sometimes, I mean, I think you can go too far with some of the rules, and actually take some entertainment value, take some of the racing. We're all race fans. We want to see great racing. That's the entertainment, especially the A main. You get out there and
Mhm.
you wait all night for this A main. It's like, and I just don't know that we're creating the best product. I feel like there's a better product out there. I think we've had a better product. I think there's a better product in Australia right this second as we speak. And I think you can look at some of the rules they have. So yeah, to your point, I mean, I'm kind of tired of just all the politics, and then the guys that make the decision have never sat in one of these cars, or never, they don't have the right conversations with the guys that are driving the cars. You could go and talk to, there's a lot of guys with a lot of experience that could probably help you, point the rules in the right direction. So we're certainly listening. I certainly am open to having some different rules. And I think when we announce our rules here in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see we definitely are going to have a few things that are different than status quo. And whether the rest of the industry follows along or not, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think the rules, we're going to be careful that to allow teams to not have to go buy a bunch of stuff to come run with High Limit, but there's going to be some openings that they can add things maybe that we think will make the racing better. So we'll see what the industry thinks, but like you said, I think Highlands is in a place that we can, you know, try to build a little bit better entertainment value for our fans, and we're certainly going to try to do that.
All Stars, have you guys looked into doing anything with that yet? I get it all. Again, it's one I figured. I mean, is it? I even hate asking it because I think Ohio was fine this year, but beside the
I think
point.
I think I think you'll be surprised. Let's put it that way. So we have some things working behind the scenes. I don't want to spill the beans because that's something that could be coming out soon. But I think there's definitely some talks going on, and I think Ohio. I hope Ohioans, however you say Ohioans, will be. Well, that was a tongue twister for me, but I hope they'll.
Buckeye State faithful.
Yes, hopefully we can. You know, uh, make them happy.
Last thing, three things. Biggest surprise for you this year. The thing you like the most about what you guys accomplished, and then the thing that needs to improve.
Probably the fact that we had 16 very
Yeah.
competitive cars run all
Yeah.
season, and the competition level was way stouter than I ever could have imagined. And as far as improvements, probably just making sure we go to the best tracks we can possibly go to, and obviously trying to make sure we go to places that we sell as many tickets as we possibly can.
All right. I'm not going to ask you about driving in a series you own. I think it's stupid now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm a type of person
That's
that can
stupid.
get, I can get it, but I think the fact that we had 16 teams and
Exactly.
drivers and team owners that feel like there's enough integrity there, and that obviously your reputation's, everything in life. So, I think that was important to have the staff that we had. In my opinion, it helps a lot. So, I felt like when I'm racing, I'm just another guy there racing, and obviously, you know, I think we proved that this year, and I think the racers want to race against the best, and the 49 team's been the best. So, I mean, I don't think they want me to quit at this point.
I know somebody said something to me about you throwing races on purpose when you were losing 36 straight. And I'm like, no, you don't know Brad. And I think you got put back once this year for jumping.
Yeah, Mike gets me probably once or so a year, which is fine. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I mean, I probably did jump, and that's the thing is like that's just part of racing, and having an official that doesn't care. And I've always told him to treat me like every other driver and team, and I think they did a good job with that. Um, it's two different worlds. When we're racing, and when we're talking about scheduling and the business side, that's two different things. So Mike's in charge, and he did a great job, and he's got a great reputation, and he has a great staff. So they do a good job. But yeah, there's always going to be haters that are gonna. I think they're gonna hate us no matter what we do, just because we're going against status quo.
No, I'm going to leave it there. Brad, I know you're busy with getting ready for everything for 2025, also the Australian trip. I appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show.
Yeah, thanks, and yeah, hopefully the fans will support that pro show. It's going to be pretty cool. It'll be breakfast and sprint cars. So December 28th, 29th, and 30th. So I think that's actually 27th, 28th, 29th in America. Oh, I don't know. I'll have to look into that, but
Don't worry, we'll
no, it'll be
find it.
exciting. Yeah, that'll be exciting for the fans. I think to be able to watch sprint cars in the morning, it'd be kind of cool. So anyway, yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. That's going to wrap up this edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com deep dive presented by EnTrust IT Solutions. Thanks again to Brad Sweet for joining us on the show. It was very informative. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and check out our daily exclusive content at www.sprintcarunlimited.com. We'll be back next week with another edition of the deep dive.